let's get this underway. Alright, what's going on, guys? Lotus What Ifs here, back with a new video. Again, I apologize for being gone for so long. Today I'm starting a new What If. We're gonna have an easy one. Not gonna make it overpowered or anything like that. No betray shit, everything's gonna go as canon, and so forth. And I'm gonna keep the ships as regular, so I don't need any ideas on what ship I want. Deku's gonna be with Uraraka, Todoroki, and Momo. You know, basically the usual ships that you would probably want to be by the end of My Hero. So, Deku's quirk, well, that's the name of the What If. What if Deku had a quirk? Deku's quirk is going to be a fairly simple one. Strive. Basically, Deku gets a 5 times boost in anything he does, other than acquiring quirks. So if Deku wants to study and stuff like that, he gets a 5-time boost in memory and so forth and so on. And same thing goes with strength training and stuff like that. So I'm keeping it like this so he ends up getting one for all at the end of, beginning of what season 1 would be. So everything stays the same. Like in the regular anime, Deku is still fatherless, or at least to the knowledge that we know. Because again, there's the theory of All For One being Deku's pops. So we're gonna keep that under wraps. So Deku still popsless, fatherless and stuff. Inko is still in his life and stuff like that. The one thing I might change is the bullying. It's not that Deku's not gonna be bullied. He's still gonna get bullied, but for a different reason. It's because of his quirk. They find his quirk to be useless because it really has no use. Since Deku's quirk is more of an innate quirk, like per se somebody who has cactus head or some shit like that. You got a cactus head, your quirk's innate. You can't really get rid of it. That's kind of how Deku's quirk works. He can't get rid of it, nor can he really show it to anyone. So they view his quirk as the worst part of innate quirks because it has no use until Deku starts putting it to use. So yeah, so we're gonna start off regular, like the first episode of My Hero. As we see regularly, everybody, well, the teacher's talking about, oh, going into high school, quirks and so forth. And Bakugo, you know, makes that shitty ass statement talking about he's gonna make it to UA. And everybody's like, oh, Bakugo can make it into UA. But when Deku says it and shit like that, yeah, everybody still laughs at him and so forth. Bakugo explodes his desk and tells him that a quirkless nobody, well, yeah, I'm still call him a Deku like you. Alright, not a quirkless nobody, but a Deku like you could never make it into UA. Your quirk is practically useless. So, yeah, Deku, he's still going to be called Deku. He's not a quirkless nobody anymore. It's just a Deku like you. And, yeah, that's basically how that goes. Bakugo still bullies him and shit like that. He doesn't make that outrageous statement talking about why don't you take a swan dive off the roof of the building? Because for some reason I decided to make Bakugo self-aware and, you know, socially aware. And he understands that if he actually says that, it could actually potentially bring Deku to the point where he actually does it. So he says, why don't you just give up and go to a regular school with people with lower quirks? And Deku's thinking to himself that he doesn't want to do that, and it makes him angry. He's not as angry as he was in the original. So yeah, Bakugo just leaves. He didn't have that dramatic popping of the explosions, and that's how it went. So Deku is still attacked by the sludge monster and so forth. And this time All Might doesn't save him. Nobody saves him. Deku doesn't get taken over by the sludge monster, but he hears sirens, or at least some people yelling that, oh, All Might's coming and stuff like that, and he gets scared and he tries to run into the sewers. So that's basically how that goes, and he runs into the sewers. So Deku is just left under the bridge unconscious for 2 to 3 hours, and then he wakes up and he forgot what happened. All he can remember is that something happened that caused him to pass out. He feels parched because, well, the sluggish monster took all the moisture out of his mouth. So Deku makes sure that he goes home to get some water. That's the first thing he does. Gets hydrated, goes, takes a shower and stuff like that. Inko asks him about his day. He says, as usual, it's a normal day because he's not trying to panic his mom. In this one, Inko still has the slim figure because she doesn't have to deal with stress like she did in the original, because Deku had no quirk and stuff like that. So yeah, Deku still likes heroes, but not as obsessed. He wants to study their quirks and stuff like that, and how he can basically use them better on the battlefield. So Deku's quirk is mostly gonna be helping him to be a better strategist. Yeah, he's basically a battle strategist. He's a playmaker. Yeah, he's a playmaker. So Deku decides that he has to finish his homework first, and he's done with that. So Deku, he finishes his homework or work relatively easy, simply because he has a great memory. He's been in school for what? He's in middle school, right? So like 8th grade and stuff like that. So if we're gonna start from like kindergarten and shit, then that makes it 9 years. Yeah. So 9 to 10 years of just straight working with his memory. So he has great memory, and he remembers everything from all the way back in 1st grade. Yeah, we're not including kindergarten because we don't care about that. And yeah, he finishes it relatively easy, and he goes on to start studying with his hero notebooks. Now, technically speaking, he doesn't need his hero notebooks to be with him anytime he's making strategies or ideas, again, in the series, because he can remember the pages and the numbers and so forth. So he decides that he's going to add on to it, since he has already memorized every hero notebook that he has, and he keeps up to date with the news and so forth. So people like Endeavor, All Might, Best Genius, and so forth with the other heroes, he keeps up with them and their quirks and how to uniquely use them on the battlefield. And that's when Deku decides, what's the point of being a strategist and helping them if you yourself could be killed easily? And Deku decides that he's gonna start working out. So he doesn't have the best start. Starts doing push-ups, but he could barely get past 10. So he makes sure that every day for at least 2 months he starts doing 10 push-ups. But during those 2 months, well, 2 to 5 months, since his quirk is innate, he noticed that he's starting to get stronger, and by the end of 2 months, he notices that doing 10 push-ups is easy for him. So he decides to do more. He sees how much that he can do until his limit, and he sees that he can do 50. He does 50 every day, and then it continuously racks up from 50 to 250, from 250 all the way to 1,250. Yeah, you basically get the gist. Deku is basically working till failure, and it's giving his muscles, or at least the muscles he uses to do push-ups, it depends on the variation he's doing. I'm not going to get into that, but basically his chest, his arms, and his back are basically working. And Deku, he basically pushes his body to the limit, to the point where he could do multiple push-ups, over thousands, millions even, to his limit. And he does them at a quick and efficient speed with perfect form. And that's basically how it goes. And this basically goes on until Deku decides that while doing the push-ups, he was going to do squats and create a whole full-blown workout. So Deku in turn ends up being ripped. I should probably change this picture because it doesn't really show it that much. Hold on. Alright, I found it. Onto the video. So yeah, Deku decided that he was going to start doing squats and so forth, and he started building his body up, getting stronger and stronger, completely surpassing the human limits. He's kind of like Saitama, but on a very lower scale. So he's stronger than the ordinary human, but not by a lot, just 5 times. And he looks like this. Ah yes, the perfect physique. Nah, I'm fucking with y'all. I mean, nah. This is his physique, and he basically looks like this. Deku cut his hair and he changed it to black because it matched his physique and stuff like that, and he felt that this was better. So Deku continued to study and so forth, and for that whole summer before high school, the entrance exam for UA, he just worked out, continued working out and so forth. During this time, he didn't meet All Might like in the anime, so he doesn't get one for all by the time the entrance exam starts. And he goes into the entrance exam. He looks the same in the face area and stuff like that. So Bakugo is able to recognize him, and he goes over to him and he says, Deku, why the hell are you here? And Deku says, I can't try out the entrance exam? Bakugo, who is still aggressive, but a little worried for Deku's safety, says, you damn idiot. Go home before you get hurt. Your quirk's not gonna help you here. And Deku says, oh, come on, Kachan. Let me go. I'm not doing that shit ever again. Never again. Never in my life. And Bakugo, he says, you know what? I don't care. Do whatever the fuck you want, Deku. But, so yeah. And Bakugo walks away and goes to cool off and get his peace of mind so that he can go and do his best. While Deku is chilling, stretching, loosening up the muscles so that he doesn't hurt himself, pulling a hamstring or tearing a muscle or anything like that while he's doing the entrance exams. So they all go to the auditorium or that room they went in where they got their cards and they got the written part of the test. So Deku, he aces it. He aces it completely. I don't think I need to tell anybody that. So he aces it. He gets a full 100 marks on it. And he's basically in the top 3 spot with Yayorozu on top, Ida, and him in 3rd place. Why? Because wealth is power. That's why. Anyways, next is the fighting part of the portion. The fighting part of the portion doesn't go the same. Deku this time, he's more confident in himself and he's more peaceful in mind since he doesn't have the whole backlash of One for All on his mind, that if he uses the power, it will break his limbs, so he's not worried about that. So Deku makes sure that he goes all out, and he ends up meeting Aoyama at the beginning because he was caught off guard, and Aoyama saved him. So they got familiarized with each other, and Aoyama went on his way. Deku proceeded to continue racking up points. He was behind Bakugo by like 5 points, so he doesn't end up getting the top spot, but Bakugo does. And the same thing happens with the whole big machine and stuff like that. But Deku, he's not worried about the machine. He just made sure that he saves Uraraka and runs away. Since the machine was going slow and Deku was faster than it, he made sure to save Uraraka, but in a more mature and safer way. And they get away, and Recovery Girl comes and heals Uraraka. And that's basically how that works. So the scores get sent to everybody, and the people that got approved and so forth got approved. Deku still got the same approval letter and stuff like that, with All Might saying welcome to Your Hero Academia, and that's basically how it goes from there. Now we have the first day of school where everybody is basically wearing what they usually wear and stuff like that, but for Deku, he has to wear a slightly bigger uniform because he doesn't want it to look too tight on him, so he does that. And Deku, he looks perfectly fine. He looks like a normal student to an extent. He's still wasn't he like 5'4" or some shit? Yeah, he was like 5'4". He was like 5'4". He got taller. He's like, not gonna make it too tall, like 6 feet, like 5'9". Yeah, 5 inches is fine. He's like 5'9" now, and that's basically how that works. He's 5'9", he's built, and so forth. And he basically goes to the class, sits down, he has a book in hand. He took up reading since he didn't have much more to learn from the heroes, since he had everything about their records in his brain and stuff like that, and anything that he watches or reads for the first time, he already remembers due to having excellent memory. And basically, he's sitting in the class and he's reading and stuff like that. Bakugo sees him in the class, and Bakugo is infuriated because, well, how did Deku get in, and why is he in my class? And basically, he goes over to him, explodes his desk, and says, Deku, why the hell are you here? And Deku says, I got accepted. As Bakugo scoffs, and he goes back to his seat, not trying to make a fuss or anything like that. like what happened in the original. So Ida doesn't come in and start yelling at Bakugo and stuff like that. He just goes to his desk or whatever desk they sat at, and he sat there and just mind his own business and stuff like that. And everybody in the class came and so forth. And Deku, he had noticed Aizawa the moment he walked in, because the moment he walked in, he saw behind the desk that there was a sleeping bag. He didn't know whether it was the homeroom teacher or some other person, so he didn't bother about it. So, first day of school goes as normal. Aizawa introduces himself and stuff like that. He tells them to put on their gear for gym and, well, physical education, I guess. And they go outside. They do the same tests and stuff like that, the whole throwing test, the running test, and so forth. When it came to the running test, first place went to Ida because Deku wasn't trying. The throwing test went to Uraraka because float, infinity. And that's basically how that went. So Deku got a decent placement inside of the scores. He got 10th place and he was perfectly content with that. So he was alright. He didn't want to try his hardest and he didn't want to leave people too shocked. So he kept it stationary. And he stayed in the top 10 spot all the way at the bottom of the 10, staying at 10. So I can't come up with 10 people that are going to be above Deku. I'm not even going to give the list, bro. So that's basically what happens. And Aizawa talks to them about the trip that they're going to be going to. I forgot the name of the shit. Wasn't it the USJ or some shit? Yeah, the USJ. And basically, a week later, they basically go to the USJ. And during this time, Deku's always been training and stuff like that. He doesn't really get scared by villains all that much. And this day is going to be the day Deku gets his first challenge, his first actual challenge in the Nomu. And basically, that's what happens. So everybody goes to the USJ. They were expecting a regular day where they could train and learn how to use their quirks better or better their fighting abilities. And as what happened before, Kurogiri opens up a big portal and the villain starts spewing out. Aizawa goes in first and so forth, starts taking out the villains, and Kurogiri tries to surround the class. But Deku doesn't allow that to happen because while Bakugo and Kirishima tried to keep Kurogiri distracted, Deku noticed the whole thing around his neck and he made sure that the first thing he did was grab it. So while Bakugo and Kirishima distracted Kurogiri, Deku grabbed the collar and he shut it closed, like actually shut it closed, like broke it together and shut it closed around his neck, leaving Kurogiri unable to use his warp ability. So that's what happened, and basically the Nomu comes out and starts dogging the shit out of Aizawa, and Deku notices this and he jumps down immediately trying to save Aizawa, but immediately he gets punched and sent flying into the rocks area, the mountain area, and he crashes into one of the mountains. And basically you think he's dead. You know, I think he's dead too, let's be honest here. But he's not. He has a lot of severely broken bones and so forth, and his bones start regenerating. But due to the ability of Thrive, something that would have took him months is, well, happening in minutes. Now this took Deku relatively 5 minutes to heal it up, since the quirk is also progressing his growth speed as time goes on. So it went down from months to a month, then to weeks, to days, and then minutes, and it's gonna be seconds in, I think, like what, season 2, season 3. I'll think of that later. We'll get there when we get there. And basically Deku is able to recover and his bones are now stronger than they were before due to Strive. Yeah, this quirk is, yeah, very useful. And his quirk is basically strengthening his bones and stuff like that. So his bones are now 5 times stronger. Still can't withstand a punch of the Nomu, so he gets sent flying again and has to take a minute this time. And this time, his quirk allows him to withstand at least 1 or 2 punches from the Nomu, so he could put up a decent fight and send the Nomu flying with 1 punch, making sure that Aizawa is not dead for the next 5 to 10 minutes or minute that Deku is healing. But he heals in seconds, and you guessed it again, he is now 5 times stronger, and he can now have a fair fight with the Nomu for a few minutes. So they managed to open the door to get Ida out and stuff like that. And Ida found All Might. But All Might was very exhausted, but still he did what he had to do. So basically All Might came and he did the same thing, but Deku was perfectly fine. Apart from his clothes being torn off and stuff like that, he is perfectly fine, he is healed, he's not harmed. And All Might notices this, but he doesn't question it for the moment. He's going to question it later, but not now. Because All Might's been analyzing the students of UA and people that he's met and stuff like that to see if he could find a worthy successor for All For One. Lemillion is still the #1 choice right now, so Mirio is still on top, but they haven't met, so he's not worried about that. And basically, they go back to school and stuff like that. They finished the USJ trip, actually. Because in this one, 13 didn't get the absolute shit taken out of her because of the portal, since Deku made sure to swiftly handle it at the beginning instead of letting it persist on. And yeah, so the villains were taken in, Kurogiri and Shigaraki included, into custody, but on their way to being taken to, well, federal prison or whatever it is, a portal opens up by, well, not the portal, but that sludge thing that teleports them from All For One opens up, and he takes Kurogiri and Shigaraki. So they end up escaping, and that becomes known to everybody in UA and to All Might. So that's how the USJ trip finishes, and they go back to class, and they basically have a regular school time for the moment being until they bring up the UA festival, the UA Sports Festival, and now they have a month to train for that. And that's where I'm going to be leaving it off for today, because, well, kind of want this to persist with the amount of seasons we have. So I'm going to be doing it season by season, but that's going to be the end of it for this part. So this is part 1 of What If Deku Had a Quirk. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and hope that I can post sooner, and goodbye.